Namaste and a very warm welcome to you on Sarva Sampann, where we share powerful stories of women from India and the Indian diaspora. Each journey is unique and there's something to learn from every one of them. Through these stories, we hope every woman feels inspired to see her own strengths, talents, and gifts and take the next steps to grow them. Today marks a special moment, our 50th episode, and I'm celebrating it with a woman who isn't afraid to speak her truth. She's bold, sometimes a little sassy, and always real. She believes everyone deserves to live their best life, even those society often overlooks. She asks tough questions to help the future generations and stands for the right to make choices about our lives and our bodies. I'm really excited to welcome Grishma Shah to this episode of Sarva Sampann. Grishma, it's such a pleasure to have you on the show. How are you doing?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me.
You're very welcome. We'll get started with our conversation on this podcast, where my goal is simple. It's to spotlight your journey and showcase the different aspects of your personality. The first segment is about your childhood. It's called Bachchpan Ke Din. And this is just to go back to the source, the beginning of your journey, and learn about all the influences that shaped the person you are today. So, Bachchpan Ke Din, Grishma, take it away.
My childhood is a mix of two places, India, which is where I was born, and America, which is where I grew up. So Bachchpan Ke Din for me is going with my nani, my maternal grandmother, to her bhajans and running around all of the aunties, playing Duck Duck Goose or whatever version of Duck Duck Goose there is in our Indian culture. And then my nana bringing me ice cream, or as we call it, kulfi. And me somehow negotiating with maybe 13 boys that are older than me, allowing me to play in their cricket team. It was our gully cricket team and no girls were allowed, but sometimes, a girl gets in. And then me jumping from one gate to another instead of using doors. And I'm doing this in my dress and, or as we call it, frock. And all the neighbors are scolding me, but it didn't matter. That was my way of entry to all of my friends' homes. And then I guess I would fast forward it to sophomore year in high school, where I'm putting on chapstick. I'm in the girls' bathroom of the high school, and next to me is Ashwarya Rai, and next to me is Sushmita Sen, or someone that looks just like them. And I'm just so unapologetically comfortable in my own skin that for me, I feel like chapstick is enough. And these are seniors and they're beautiful, but I'm a sophomore and this is enough. And then running to my next class because I was always almost late to every class. That's it.
So a very wholesome childhood, complete with naughtiness and, the attitude, right? So you would have really developed some strong negotiation skills, I'm sure, trying to find your way into that cricket team dominated by boys. And fun to hear about all the things that you managed to get away with in school. So that is wonderful to know, and really glad to hear that you were comfortable in your own skin, even when you felt surrounded by people of the stature of Miss Universes and Miss Worlds. We'll move on to our next segment, which is Ye Kahaan Gaye Hum, and this is the journey that life takes you on after you finish your high school. It's a long span, it's all the way till the present day. So a lot of things have happened to you, I'm sure, after you finished your high school. But I call it Ye Kahaan Gaye Hum, with a little bit of that zinger where, we are leaving the comforts of our home and stepping into the unknown, the uncharted, and sometimes really finding ourselves saying, wow, kahaan gaye hum really. So this is the phase where life happens to you, the onward journey.
Yeah, I love the titles because it's a song. Ye kahaan aage hum. I think for me, it would probably be around that sophomore, junior year of high school when things really, really shifted for me and life really started to happen in all the ways that I would not expect life to happen. I became a girl that was on chemo, and that continued for many, many, many years. And so what resulted in that is that, no one wanted to invite a sick kid to their parties. So like no birthday parties, no invitations to engagements, no invitations to weddings, no invitations to divorce parties, no invitations to bachelorette parties, even the club parties. You always had a friend that was promoting some party at some club, and all of these things were happening, and clearly I was aware of them because of Facebook and all of the other, pages that told you what everyone was doing. But it wasn't until I was like in my late 20s when it started to make sense to me. Oh, okay. So if you're not going to invite the sick kid, you're not going to invite the sick kid's parents, and you're not going to invite the sick kid's sister. And so, I'm just really grateful that I had a constant presence, which were my parents and my sister, and another constant presence, which was my oncologist, who's known me since I was 16, believe it or not. And also painting. I didn't know what it was called at the time, but it was called mixed media, where I just loved to pair things that society would have probably said would be an inadequate pairing. And somehow I just really enjoyed putting it together. And to me, it was always very beautiful, the kind of results that came out of it. So my parents moved to the States when I was 5 or 6. And so growing up with American culture and then, being rooted in Desi culture, it's really influenced the type of artwork that I create. As you can see here, some examples. But for me, especially with education, I was taking one class at a time. I was able to graduate high school in 3 years, which not too many people know about. But like my junior year of high school, I actually wasn't in school more than 10 days. And then would take a class at a time. So one class per semester to finish all of my credits to be able to get that bachelor's degree and then get that master's degree and then finally get that doctorate in psychology. So I am Dr. Grishma Shah as of 2021 November.
Your educational qualifications aside, which are incredible. I mean, getting a PhD in psychology. Did you pursue that line of work? Did you work as a psychologist? What was it that you did after you got your PhD?
Yeah. So what I do is I marry art and psychology together. Ever since I was a little girl, I loved Bollywood, as I'm sure everybody else, checking us out right now do as well. But when we came to America, that was the one regular thing that we were able to do as a family. We would get, movies. Usually at that time, movies were like 3 hours long. And then we would have a picnic in our living room, and we would be having dinner like on a Friday night, and we would just be watching movies, and then I would be dreaming of the movies when I would be sleeping, where I was the main heroine, believe it or not. There were no evil mother-in-laws. There were lots of dancing sequences. And even like the sister-in-laws and the mother-in-laws, they treated me as if I was their daughter. It just wasn't the kind of story that you usually saw in these Bahu sauce serials. And I just really enjoyed having these dreams. And so I thought, okay, well, why aren't these kinds of stories being created? And then when I got older and I, became an amputee as a result of the cancer, I started really paying attention at the age of 18 I'm like, oh wow, there really aren't many stories about disabled girls that are very young. So either they're being erased or they're being shown in a really negative way, which might just influence how people think of disabled women when they get older. And so I guess I was being the psychologist at the time without having the training, but I wanted to somehow make that into my career. I don't think I chose it. I think it chose me. There was just a feeling that I had whenever I watched a movie, and it made my blood boil and it made me feel butterflies in my tummy and it kept me up at night. I just needed to be able to show the world that being brown skin and not having blue eyes and pale skin and being disabled and being a woman, none of those things were bad. And if you're all of those things combined, that still doesn't mean that you're bad. It's just there's infinite ways to live and there's infinite ways to live your best life. And I think that's what everyone should know ever since, they're 1 or 2 years of age. Alongside potty training, they should just know that there are infinite ways to live and each of them are equally valuable.
It's amazing that your experiences became, whether it was through Bollywood or what you observed, the impetus for you to go and pursue psychology. And like you said, psychology chose you because it looks like there was that affinity with that field as you were trying to really expand your understanding of the society. So what happened after you finished your PhD in psychology? So I want to understand a little more about, the next steps that you took once you got this degree.
Yeah, lots of failures, believe it or not. People don't talk about them, but I think failure is more constant than our bodies changing. And so, I learned to be really flexible. I think I have to learn more about how to be flexible, and also about just surrendering. You could be doing everything right, but sometimes there's more to that formula than doing everything right, and patience and dedication and passion. Something magical. I don't know what it is. I wouldn't know how to explain it, but the stars just need to align in such a way that your projects get greenlit and that you have no control over. It just depends on the day of that person that has the power to greenlit your project. It also depends on whoever is reading your application or is interviewing you, what their relationship is to the color of your skin, to the gender that you identify, to, how you look, how you pray, how you eat. It just, there are so many things that are out of our control that I just really needed to understand that I could be doing absolutely everything right. And still it may not turn out exactly how I plan. And that's okay because I should just be proud of the fact that I'm doing what I think is best, which aligns with my values, which aligns with what I want to live my life as. And it's hard sometimes. It's hard when, you grow up thinking, okay, if I study really, really hard, I should be getting an A plus, not an A for an exam. But sometimes you still don't get that A plus. Sometimes you don't even get that A. And you can either be really upset at the fact that you didn't get that grade that you wanted to get, and you can be really sad about the fact that you didn't make certain people proud, or you can really be proud of the fact that you tried your absolute best. There was no way that you could have given it any more than what you got. And then say, and that's what life is. Things just don't go out as planned, but it could still be a really, really beautiful life.
You're so right about all those things that you talked about. You control what you control, basically, right? So you have been working in this field as a psychologist, I assume, and
Yeah, as a psychologist and as an artist. I don't think, yeah, I don't, how I don't have any children, so forgive me if I'm not saying this right, but most people I know that have children, they don't say they have one child they like more. They say they love both their children and or more than one child. And they don't say that, I am X's child more than I'm Y's child. I'm always the parent. And I feel like that is true for me. I'm always an artist and I'm always a psychologist. I don't think there's a way for me to turn one off and turn one on. It's always both there as well as all the identities that make up who I am. You know, my experiences with disability, my experiences being a woman, my experiences with South Asian culture. All of these things are always in every decision that I make. Hopefully it's as mindful as it can be, and hopefully it's as welcoming as I can make it. But there's never for me a way for me to turn any one of these identities off. It's all or none, but one identity is never always the main ruler.
You say that you treat psychology and art, equally, right? You have a passion for both, and you're trying to find your expression through these different fields. We can talk about that in our next segment, which is Kaam Ki Baat, work-wise, and just as a way to explore your understanding, your perspective, and your outlook of these two fields merging together.
So you actually nailed it, Anu. You said the word merging. So Kaam Ki Baat, so I have an art exhibit right now at Bridgeport Art Center from May 15th to July 3rd. And I guess who better to ask about making an event very welcoming than the person that tends to feel excluded, especially growing up being the sick kid, right? And so as a psychologist, I wanted to curate an event that would make everybody feel welcome. And I didn't know if that was going to be possible. And I still don't know if everybody that came, I've been told it was almost 1,000 people at opening night that came felt welcome. But the feedback that I have been getting is that many, many people did feel welcome. And so for me, when you entered the venue, I didn't want you to worry about parking, especially in the city. So there was a lot of parking and it was free. Then coming into the venue, I didn't want some people to feel like, well, there's a barrier. I can't even enter. So guess what? It was wheelchair accessible. And that meant it was stroller accessible because I also know of many people with young kids that came to the event. And that was one of the things that I wanted. I wanted everyone to be able to feel like, oh, I can come with my kids. And so from what I was told, we had one guest that was 2 or 3 months old that attended, and also people in their 80s and 90s, and they all had a great time. So what else can I do to make someone feel welcome? I wanted people to understand my childhood in the way that I remember it. And so when you entered, I wanted you to smell the masala chai. And so there was masala chai there. And I wanted you to nibble on all of the cookies that I grew up eating in India and here. From the pistachio cookies to the cashew cookies to the parley cookies. That, I know friends who are fashion designers eat to regular people eat. And so we also had gluten-free options because, not everybody can be able to eat gluten the same way. We had fruit, we had wine, we had seltzer, we had water, we had things that every single person could enjoy. And then we had harp music because I love music and I wanted something that was calming but not too loud, because if you're a hearing aid user, then loud noise doesn't allow you to participate fully. And then I wanted you to be able to touch some of the artwork. I know, oh my God, risque, don't touch the artwork, but I wanted you to touch the artwork. And so I created a scavenger hunt, which was online through a QR code. So you use your smartphone, which is extremely adaptable to you. And then you play this game, which allows you to interact with the artwork even more. And you were able to touch some things and find out what their hidden meanings were. And spoiler alert, in one of the two things, one said to leave. How does it feel when you are told to leave, but not blatantly in a hidden message? And then how does it feel when you're told welcome? Welcome to this space. I hope you have a great time. I hope you are able to participate in the most fullest way that you are able to participate. I want you to feel like you belong here. And so I have 2 rooms. One room, if I did it right, will make you feel uncomfortable. It'll give you that dissonance. The second room will show you and make you feel that you belong with all of your merging contradictions, because that's the room of merging contradictions.
That sounds like a wonderful experience. I mean, the way you've curated and the way you explained some of the things, the elements that you've put together to make people feel welcome, to feel, to provide those accommodations. It sounds like a lot of thought went into it. Did you get any feedback about it from the folks that attended?
I did, yeah, and it's been very, very pleasant, which I'm really grateful for. I'm the kind of person I love compliments, don't get me wrong, but I also want to know what can I do better for next time. This is an art project that I've been planning for 10 years. Believe it or not, it's got about 66 of my artworks in there. And it's covering 5,000 square feet of Bridgeport Art Center. It's a solo show, 2 full rooms. So it's a big art project with a lot of sleepless nights, and I hope that I'm also able to share the experience of what it means for me growing up as the disabled South Asian woman. There's one piece, if I was to say it's my self-portrait, maybe there's two pieces. The first is called Tingli, and in my Gujarati culture, that means doll. And the description is something along the lines of dolls mirror our lives every day. Then what does it say when we throw away a doll with one arm? Because then if that is your relationship with disability when you're very, very young, then what is your relationship going to be with disability when you get older and you meet someone like me? I have one arm. Are you also going to throw me away? And these are the very subtle reflections that I ask my audiences to think about. And then there's also one that I call Devi. And Devi represents in Hinduism, the goddess. And so Devi is a Devi, one arm or none. Then why is a woman not a woman when she's lost one? Again, just slightly, fluttering a few feathers here and there with some rhymes to make people think about, what is it that we're actually doing here? And what is it that we're actually trying to do with people that may not look like us, may not pray like us, may not eat like us? Are we trying to make them feel othered, or are we trying to say, hey, you belong just as I do. You matter just as much as I do.
Kudos to you for putting that thought and translating it into your artwork. What a powerful takeaway. What a powerful reflection and opportunity for reflection.
I will say, I get how important presentation is. I mean, most of my stuff rhymed because I was like, oh, when it rhymes, it's a little less of a slap in the face, right? Like, Dr. Seuss said a lot of nice things and very meaningful things, but when it rhymed, it was, it kind of settled in the stomach a little better. Or, like there's a nice way to present yourself with, how you dress and how you do your hair and, how you put your makeup on. And I absolutely understand all of that. It's very difficult to constantly only think of the spirituality of who we are, the soul, the spirit, however we define the energy that we all share. There's this one artwork which is called Aikam. I hope I'm pronouncing it right. In Sanskrit, it means oneness. And what I love about that piece is that it talks about how we're all merging contradictions and we're all unfolding, within this journey and how our experiences may be different, but what we feel is not so different. We all know what tears taste like, don't we? Yeah. We all know what heartbreak feels like. We all know what unrequited love feels like. We all know what the death of someone that we love feels like. And all of these experiences make us human. And at that point, none of us are wondering, oh, well, what was the color of that person's skin? We don't think about that. We just think of, oh my gosh, you know how it feels to lose someone that you love. You know how it feels to have unrequited love. These are the things that I feel like we forget so often because of all the labels, right? Like, oh, well, what size is your big carriage ring? are you at least worth a carrot? These are the conversations that I've been around. And as funny as I think they are, somehow they've been ingrained in our society for us to think that that's a normal conversation to have. How big is your house? How many cars do you have? You know, how many Teslas do you have? When did it become like that? When did it become? How many vacations do you take a year? How many international vacations do you take here? What? You've never been to Paris? Oh my God, like you haven't really lived until you've been to Rome. I don't think that these were the kind of conversations that we were having 20, 30 years ago. I think it was more about, are you living your best life? Do you feel supported? Do you feel loved? What can we do to make sure that you know that you matter? We want you to succeed. These are the conversations that I think the next generation of children are really going to miss out on. And I don't have kids, but I worry for your kids because I do feel like kids at a really early age need to know that they matter. And if they don't know that they matter, then how will they know what matters? I didn't realize this until now, but I think one of the reasons why I was able to incorporate the spirituality of Hinduism, which I've come to learn through my Gita teachers, is that we all are born with so many different labels, and these labels are man-made, but these labels will influence our lives, whether we like them or not. And I don't want to say that that doesn't exist. It absolutely exists. Would my life be easier if people had better relationships with all the labels that make me me? I do believe so, yes. I mean, I come from a culture where if you are a boy, you are prayed for and celebrated from the moment of your existence. And then now these men are turning 30, 40, 50, and they're like, whoa, whoa, what do you mean? I'm not the center of attention. I am not the golden child. And that is because culture is changing and it's trying to show everybody that one label, one title should not supersede another label or another title. At the very least, it should all be equal. So I definitely recognize that. I think for me, and all I can do is share what I've learned, is I'm constantly thinking about the dissonance. And I'm constantly trying to recognize that, yeah, there's going to be a lot of merging contradictions and there's going to be a lot of physical discomfort and there's going to be a lot of mental disconnect. But can there also be beauty? Can there also be respect? Can there also be kindness? And some days maybe I won't be able to achieve that. Maybe the day is just so far beyond me. But then there's always the next day where I can try again and take rest until I can try again. That's all I can hope for, to be my best version. And then if reincarnation really is real, I don't know if it is. I don't know if it isn't. I don't have memories of a past life, so I can't experience that for myself. Then whatever I've learned for this life, I'm able to grow with it in my next lives. And how beautiful is that? So it just reminds me, just really learn as much as you can, because maybe then in your next lives, you'll be able to handle what life has to offer in a way that just allows you to live that very best life.
Yeah, absolutely. And why wait for next life? If you're trying to be the best version of yourself, maybe it's right around the corner. Be the best you can be and do the best you can. But again, for you to think about these things and incorporate them in your art, and just talking about that is really, really important, because like you said, life conditions us, society conditions us, the environment we live in, that has a role to play. And we have these blind spots. So we don't get to really see the full picture till that light is shown on certain aspects, that we miss seeing, which are right out there for us to see, but somehow we miss it. And I think especially artists, people that are in fields like yourself, have that opportunity, and also, I wouldn't say responsibility, but I think the responsibility lies with everyone to make sure that we don't remain ignorant and we take those steps in the right direction to appreciate and understand. And the more we talk about these things, these dissonances, I think the better we are for it as a society, as individuals. So Thank you so much for shedding light on this really, really important work that you're doing, Grishma. And ready to move on to our next segment?
Sure.
Wonderful. This is your X factor. And here I'd like to understand what is it about your personality? What is it about you that um, I wouldn't say has been tucked away or hidden, because I'm sure through your work, people have an opportunity to get a glimpse into that. But what would you describe as something that's core to your personality?
It's interesting you say that. I do feel like I have been hidden. And again, it's who do we make responsible for that? I don't know. It's either everyone or it's no one. I don't know who started the negative relationship about disability, especially if you are a Desi woman with a disability that is very noticeable. Um, but hey, you know what? I'm still here. And I think for me, I'm able to share what I feel through the artwork. There was actually a wonderful type of feedback that I received during opening night. And someone he had said, who did not know me, he had said, with every artwork of a woman, the eyes are very expressive. Why is that so? And I said, well, because my eyes will tell you how I'm feeling. If I'm upset, if I feel like this is not the best way for us to handle things, if I feel like decisions are being made for me, not by me about my own life, my eyes will be able to express that. That is one thing about me that I don't know how to control. I've got a very bad poker face. And so I think that also, reflects in the artwork that I create as well. And so for me, that's just one way for me to be able to communicate the messages that I've experienced and the messages that I've actually been told. I was in Amsterdam not too long ago for a solo trip. It wasn't supposed to be a solo trip, but the universe has its ways. So it became a solo trip and I was there for a week. Long story short, I met a woman who had traveled about 30 countries. 30, okay? That's a lot of countries. And she said, I've never been to India. And I said, why is that? And she was also a tour guide. And she said, I am afraid of how much freedom an Indian man has, and it scares me. And I was like, I am surprised to hear that, but I'm also not surprised also. Because just being in Amsterdam, knowing Hindi, knowing Gujarati, knowing English, knowing some Punjabi, the kinds of things that I heard Desi men say in the red light district and otherwise in Amsterdam really made me feel like I need some Ganga Jal just to kind of purify myself a little bit. But again, it goes back to why did they learn this? Maybe if we teach them at a very young age that a woman is equal to you, then maybe when they get older, they won't feel like a woman is not equal to me. And that's what I'm trying to convey in my artwork in the most subtle ways as possible, because when I do it very strongly, it just doesn't work out very well. So I will try my best to just probe people, ask them, why do you think that way? Show them, hey, this is what I think, and then leave the rest to their journey.
More power to you in your efforts to try and really shake and break the systems that are in place that are responsible for a lot that is undesirable and unacceptable. Yeah, I really want to thank you and a big shout out to you for taking this head on, taking this cause and trying to do something about it.
Yeah, I will say when I had that conversation with the tour guide, I had the privilege of being with her for about 3, 4 hours.
Yeah.
I did say to her, I'm sorry that has been your experience, and I am very well aware of how much freedom men from my culture have. But I did also want to say there are some amazing, progressive, kind, empathetic Indian men as well, and they are the greatest allies that a woman can ever have. That see their partners and see their daughters and see the other women in their lives as equal. And I hope you get to experience that as well.
I hope so too. And well, thank you for, for balancing that out. because that is true. For everything that's good about everything that's bad about the society, there's also a lot of good that happens and a lot of good that exists, and we need to shine light on all of those equally. So that is important too. Grishma, we're approaching the end of our conversation, and the last segment is self-care. I would love to learn about the way in which you take care of yourself at a mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual level. What do you do on a daily basis, or as much as possible, to take care of yourself?
I've come to realize that when the shit hits the fan, no one can be there for you as much as you can be there for your body. And that is one of the reasons why, for me, anger does not work. And when I got introduced to spirituality, when I got introduced to my Gita class teachers, one's actually a physician. And so I get the best of both worlds. And I realized, okay, well, if I'm angry at all of the unfairness that I feel is happening, what can I do about it? I can be angry and then my blood pressure will increase. And then I'm going to have all of these medications to have to take care of me. But then after a point, even the medications stop working because the blood pressure was still increasing. And I asked myself, okay, maybe I can lean into spirituality a little bit and then try to understand why I'm so upset. I was upset because I expected more from my culture. I expected them to accept me as I am, and my culture wasn't able to do that. And that resulted in me not being able to marry the person that I wanted to when I was in my 20s. It was basically the family saying, you can't marry a disabled girl. She's going to bring her status down. And I was okay to be someone like a daughter, but not good enough to be like a daughter-in-law. And that really, really made me upset. That really made my blood pressure go up. But with spirituality, I started to realize that I can try to do something that flips the script about what kind of relationships we have about people. And maybe breathing can help, maybe learning about the Gita, maybe asking all of my thousands of questions to someone that has the wisdom to be able to answer them. I think in the last 10 years, these things have really allowed me to have a better understanding of life and what I want to leave as my legacy, because everybody here that is in a body is going to leave their body one day. And the only thing left is the legacy that they're going to have. And maybe my legacy can be that, hey, yeah, she was disabled and she created really nice art. And her art said something and it makes me think. And maybe what it says will help my children live a better future.
Really sad for whichever family that said no to somebody like you.
I know they missed out. They missed out.
They clearly missed out, because the talents, the understanding, the depth that you bring, is the stuff that life should be made of. And missing out on that is the most unfortunate thing. But I'm glad that you have had the opportunity to go through this journey of evolution, and with all the pain and the difficulties that you had to endure, you've had a lot of courage and determination to fight, really give it a fight at every step, and be the person that you are today.
I will say, I personally, having been a cancer patient at this age of 16, I did not consider cancer to be as bad as the treatment that society gives you once they have deemed you undesirable and unworthy. And so I really, really do hope that that changes.
It's an open question, right? Open-ended question. Will that change? The answer really comes down to everyone doing that self-introspection and saying, what is it that I want to see my life look like? Because the truth is, at the end of the day, nobody makes it alive, out of this journey. The body has limitations, and as we age, those things become very, very apparent.
Yeah, it's just a human experience.
Is the most human
Disability,
experience. Yeah, and
yeah,
that's one more thing that
sexuality.
actually connect us. No matter how strong and how fit and how beautiful and how wealthy you are, the end game is something that is an equalizer. So, growing old, falling sick, and dying, like the Buddha would say, is something that each one of us has to go through, whether we like it or not. And the better thing would be to change the perspective, shift the attitude, and start paying attention, close attention to things that should really matter in life. So I want to thank you so much, Grishma, for giving me this opportunity to connect with you, to have this conversation, and really in this span of 30, 40 minutes, really touching upon some topics that everybody should be thinking about. So as we wrap up, any message for our audience out there as a parting shot?
Um, I guess the next time you are surprised by the way someone looks or the way that they carry themselves, ask yourself, is it because you didn't learn that this was possible? And then ask yourself, is it okay that it is possible? Every single one of us is going to experience disability at some point in our lives. And it's really up to you if you want people to have a good relationship about disability, those people that are treating you as medical professionals, as human beings, or if you want them to have a negative relationship. And if you have a negative relationship, then can you be mad at them for having a negative relationship at you? Food for thought.
Food for thought for sure. And I really want to thank you once again from the bottom of my heart for taking this time and sharing those thoughts. Those thoughts are invaluable. Thank you, Grishma. It's been an honor.
Bye.
Thank you.